Yeah.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me?
Good morning.
No, they can't. You can hear me now? Okay. And then once.
Yes,
we'll
Commissioner.
hit the record button.
It's
we'll-
recording.
Okay, great. Can we all please stand and rise for the pledge of allegiance? I'll have Autumn.
Sure.
Start us off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Rockingham County Commissioners meeting of February 9th, 2023. I'll do some introductions. We have in-house, we have in the meeting room, we have Chuck Nickerson, our Finance Director. We have New Gates, Maintenance and Engineering. We have Autumn, our recruiter, correct?
Yep.
Allison Kavakowski, HR Director. We have Commissioner Coyle, we have Leila, and myself are here in the room. And then in Zoom, we have Commissioner Godu in Zoom. We have Jason Smith. We have Robin Bernier. We have Pat Conway. We have Jason Henry. We have the Sheriff's Department. Looks like the Sheriff, Captain Mann, and maybe Major Bashaw. Then we have Kathy Stacy. And I think that's it. Oh, yeah. And then we have B. Burns. Becky Burns, and then we have a phone number that I can't read from here, but. Yeah, does the person with the phone want to identify themselves? Hit *9 if you'd like to say something.
Scott Priestley.
Would you introduce yourself?
Oh,
Scott
Tricia,
Priestley.
It's the treasurer, Brian.
That's okay.
Brian.
Maybe the sound is not coming through.
Can you hear me? It's Scott Priestley.
Trying.
Commissioner, it's
Scott
Scott Priestley.
Would you like to put it into the chat if that's easier?
We can't hear Kathy.
I don't know. What do I do?
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Oh, yes.
Oh, she's just said it's Scott Priestley.
Oh,
Oh, it's
Wonderful.
Scott. Okay, Scott, we have our
Yep.
treasurer, Scott Priestley. And I think that's it. I think we've covered everything. So we'll open up the RFP openings and awards. Certified wound care nurse specialist.
I move to authorize the Senior Director of Long-Term Care Services to review, evaluate the proposals and return with a recommendation.
second,
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
second.
I'll second.
Okay. thank you.
Can you hear me?
Steve, I can't hear you.
I don't think it might be coming through here.
Or Pacific
All right, we may have an audio difficulty. Hold on. just a
no,
second.
it's not because.
Let's try again.
Should we try hitting the, oh no, that's just.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
You can't hear me.
Commissioner Coyle fixed it. So,
Or you.
oh, did you second that motion?
I think it was actually Leila was responsible for our.
I don't know.
I
So
don't-
Commissioner Godu, did you want to second that motion?
Yes, second.
Okay, so we have Commissioner Godu second. Any discussion? If not, I'll take a motion, vote. Commissioner Coyle,
Yes,
Commissioner Godu?
Yes,
I vote yes. Opening for the K-9 grant vehicle uplift equipment.
I move to authorize the High Sheriff to review, evaluate proposals and return with a recommendation.
Motion's been made
second.
and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none on the motion, Commissioner Godu?
Yes,
Commissioner Coyle?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. On to consent agenda.
So first, with respect to the meeting minutes, I move to approve the February 2nd, I'm sorry, we're tabling those. I forgot that. That's
Motion.
tabled.
Motion's been made to table the meeting minutes until we get a full copy.
Yeah.
second.
Second, and it's not debatable. So on a motion, Commissioner Coyle,
Yes.
Commissioner Godu?
Yes,
I will vote yes. And
And I'll do the second motion and then maybe perhaps with respect to the rest of the consent agenda, and then we could, if we want to have some discussion about rental assistance or anything.
Correct.
So I move to approve the remainder of the consent agenda, which includes an accounts payable list total of $3,089,631.93.
Motion's been made,
second,
seconded. Any discussion? Well, we're gonna actually get into more detail, but, so on the motion, Commissioner Godu?
yes,
Mr. Coyle?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Okay, let's go back to the Rockingham County Emergency Rental Assistance report that we got. Does anyone want to discuss anything? Maybe Chuck can give us a really quick synopsis, or Commissioner Coyle?
Oh, yeah, you can
You can do it. I mean, just he prepared the report for.
Sure. So, I mean, I guess there are two important pieces of information. The total distributions or disbursements to January 31st for the program is is nearly $7 million overall. So that's significant. But what we're seeing even probably, of greater significance is in the last month for January, over $961,000 was dispersed for rental assistance and fuel assistance. So you can see the ramp up, that data really tells us the ramp up from, especially as we all have seen in the last few months, and how we can anticipate that that's probably going to continue for the next foreseeable few months. So it's just something to be aware about. Chuck, I had two questions. So I was just looking at, there's two pieces in this spreadsheet. It has number of new households and number of returning households. How do we categorize number of returning households?
So if in our system, they've applied for assistance before,
Okay,
we do have technically some that have already received assistance from the federal program, but through the states.
right, the CAPS
ERAP.
program. So if
But
they,
for us, they're new.
right,
So when they come on with us, they're new, but we do include their month from Southern New Hampshire Services towards the 18 months maximum, because that's what you're supposed to do. But for us, they're new.
okay.
So even those ones that received assistance from SNHS, to us, they are new, unique households
Yeah,
receiving
that makes
assistance.
sense.
And it looks like we're issuing about, like, for instance, I was just looking at Derry specifically because it appears they've had, Derry has been the largest town recipient of share. And it makes sense, great, because there are so many apartments and rental units in Derry. As when you think about Rockingham County, Derry probably has the greatest number of rental units. But so when you look at, like, there's 200,000, looks like $200,000 about left brain math, or right brain, I should think, and for 48 households. So it's like 4,000-ish per household. So what are we seeing? Any trends about how many months what level of assistance
It's
or?
kind of varied. I mean, unlike other programs, we didn't put a cap because our intent was just to get the money out there. And if your rent was, whether you're at a subsidized housing thing, you need help with your 30%, and that could be as low as $200
Okay.
I've seen. Or it could be as high as if you had a brand new apartment rental thing, and unfortunately you got divorced and your spouse left and you're stuck with that rent on your own, you've got 2 kids or more. We've had cases like that, and that rent's $2,000. And the rents are it's crazy out there. What we're seeing for rent dollars is quite the spread. And we've got some people who run the gamut of, I just need, help with security deposit, and I will try my best to do it on my own, but sometimes they come back for true monthly rental assistance, and we've had some that go the whole 18 months. Just us alone or between us and SNHS. So I can't really pin down that,
There's no trends.
We've had cases across the board. We have had several that have, or seem like they're trending towards utilizing the full 18 months. We do see that. And when you look at, because we go after income verification stuff where we can, and you know, sometimes you look at these people and it's like, how do you even make ends meet
Right, how do you even,
already?
yeah.
And meanwhile, the rent's getting increased every year.
yeah, exactly. And then the, you know, in terms of inflationary costs for food and everything else, so.
We've
it's like
seen that as an increase, so we've seen that as an increased rationale why they need help. Is
Right.
because overall, you know, increase in costs. I mean, oftentimes, you know, it'll be electric that they'll cite as far as that inflation.
Yeah, which is significant. Okay,
You all set?
I am, too. I don't know.
Commissioner Godu, did you have any questions at all?
I do not.
Okay, I'll be quick. So noticing the current trend, Chuck, when do you anticipate we run out of what we currently have?
I think without asking for any part of our remaining 60% that the feds did not give us for the area 2, but they, you know, it was allocated to us.
Yeah.
But we have to spend down enough to get to that point that we can request. We're on the cusp of that. But barring, like, say if somehow we didn't get any of that, it would probably be like this summer could be out in that, because that 7 million is between both ERA 1 and ERA 2, and we
Okay.
did about 4 million with ERA 1. And we received, it was like 6.5 million, 6.6 of ERA 2. And so you can say that, you know, 3 million plus some admin costs,
Right,
so maybe like 3.5 of that 6 plus has been
okay.
spent.
So what you're projecting without any additional funds, maybe summertime.
We'll get through the winter, yeah,
Right.
so we'll get through the winter, we'll get into spring, I mean, obviously, people, we
That's-
can do 3 months ahead.
Yeah.
So people do avail themselves of it, because or else they'd be right back with us reapplying, so
Yeah.
it's just more efficient.
And then my
Yeah, so
last question
maybe
would
3
be, do we have the capability of, when people are running up against the 18 months, to give them like a pre-warning saying, you know, this is probably your last 3 months,
that's-
just to let them know and say, you know, this is coming to an end, so you're giving them a little bit of fair warning.
It's part of the conversation between Joe or Gail, or even Jesse or whoever it might be. I also, after someone gets approved and they're requested to sign their own, like grant agreement for acknowledgement of what assistance they're getting.
Yeah.
I follow up with like a quick email as well, so that they know that that's not a false email that they're getting
Right,
from the system.
right,
And if someone is close or they're at the limit, I explain to them, you know, where they are, what they can do. If
Okay,
they use
perfect.
up all rental, then they still have electric assistance. If they happen to need assistance and qualify,
Yeah.
remain eligible for the program. So,
Perfect.
yeah, so we do reach out in different ways to them. to let
that's
them
awesome.
know.
Okay, I'm really happy with the report here. It's gonna end, if it does end, it'll be in the summertime, not in the middle of winter.
Yeah, we're gonna get through winter, we're gonna get through, spring. So, and
Okay.
again, that's worst case scenario, we might even, I think what'll happen is if we wanna run this all the way through to what the feds allow, we'll be requesting an allocation of like other people's money.
Okay, well, I think that'll be a discussion the commission.
Yeah,
will have,
yep.
I would imagine when we get
Yeah,
closer.
before, I'm not gonna do that all on my own, I'm
No.
totally gonna go to the commissioners.
But, all right.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so let's go to reports, I believe, right? Unless we're gonna.
Correct.
is it?
We're
Okay.
moving to, yes, the next
Okay, thank you.
liaison.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'm gonna do liaisons. I'm gonna ask, I'm gonna start with Commissioner Godu if he has anything.
No liaison reports for me today.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Coyle, do you have anything to
Sure,
share?
yeah, I have a number per usual. I'll start with the Department of Corrections. The population's at 140. We have been fairly consistent between 140 and 160-ish, so you know, it is steady right now. There's no COVID over at the jail, which is good, and the two individuals that were in the pipeline, the two women who were in the pipeline for doing their poly came back, all that's good, and they should be
Good.
starting shortly.
Awesome.
On another positive note, there was a officer that left for to be closer to home and for more money, was a very valued officer and is coming back.
Oh,
So, what we're seeing is, it's interesting coming, so what we're seeing is this, we're really seeing,
so did we close the gap? I don't mean to cut you short. Did we close the gap with the new pay scale? Is that why the person
I-
came out?
I believe, and Superintendent Henry can speak better to it, but I believe that's
Okay,
that's what
good.
it boils down to.
Hey, Commissioner Coyle is correct. The person left to go to Massachusetts, and by closing this gap, it's close enough that coming here is less actually stressful than something like a much larger jail in Massachusetts where we're dealing with a lot of gangbangers. So was very happy to come back.
Very good. Thank
Right.
you. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, not at all, by all means. Let's see, so, over in long-term care, it's been a busy week. My other two, departments are long-term care and, finance, and both have been extraordinarily busy. Significantly, with respect to long-term care, we had the state showed up on, Monday, the 6th for the life safety inspection. And overall, that went well. They were very particular, but overall, things went very well. And it's pretty remarkable because obviously, everybody had to weather that extreme cold spate. And with frozen pipes, I don't know, I know my daughter's school was closed on Monday because of frozen pipes, and especially, any of these, any big facility was facing frozen pipes. Because it's just unprecedented cold. So credit to everybody in long-term care, and also engineering and maintenance for being so proactive and reactive to frozen pipes to make sure all the residents were well cared for and warm, and that you could see a situation where the life safety inspection could have gone
Yeah.
poorly because, what'd you say? Yeah, poorly because of the, weekend weather, and yet things went,
That's good.
well overall. You'll note that, a lot of people in the conference room have chosen not to wear masks right today because our positivity level is down to medium, which means that we are not required to, wear masks in, non-resident populated areas. So, for the time being, we don't need to be wearing masks. We're not required to wear masks in this conference room. We do have some adjustments to staffing agreements today. Otherwise, again, thanks to Jude and her team for working so hard to fix frozen pipes and get everything up and running. Over in finance, we have no shock, Chuck's team has been extraordinarily busy. I'm going to tell one anecdotal story, which is, some of the hotels had frozen pipes as well, which displaced individuals who were staying at the
Oh, yeah.
motels. And a special shout out to Jesse Tonry, who actually delivered a check to a individual with a small child who was going to not have any place to go. And because Jesse went there and delivered the check, she had a place to stay that night. So,
That's
I mean,
dedication.
that is true, keeping someone from homelessness. So that was really nice. Chuck is still extraordinarily busy with deadlines and reporting requirements. Now we're talking about the workers' comp reporting deadline with the Department of Labor. And we're also, I know Commissioner Chiricello, you'll be leading the charge, but we have some starting union negotiations for 2 unions, so. Ooh.
Very good.
And this is why I don't get, we hear from Chuck, I think Chuck's emails, I don't get an email from him that are in normal business hours.
Well, I just have one question for Chuck. We always say that you're inundated and very busy. At what month are you not busy? All right.
There's
say no
not,
more. I get it.
it's varying degrees of,
Chaos.
well, maybe that's it. It's always busy. It's
Yeah, okay.
That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. So on mine, I do get lengthy reports from both, my liaison with Jude Gates and Allison Kowarski, and the Sheriff's Department. But I'm gonna let them speak when we go around and let them update it, everybody. So I have nothing further, but, so now we'll move on to, the next discussion is the new building construction owners project manager discussion. And so just a little synopsis of where we're at. We brought in Harvey, Warren Street and Revision last week for an update on the building, just to find out where we're all standing with that. Commissioner Godu has introduced or has requested or highly recommends that a project manager come on board. And I'm gonna let him speak to that if he so chooses right now. Steve, can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Cherichello.
You are.
So that my first presentation on this project was last week, and I've generated a lot of questions. Part of that is because maybe there are things that have been covered that I haven't been able to catch up with yet. Nevertheless, I'd like to run through a list of questions that I have for discussion, not necessarily expecting an immediate answer, but at least an eventual answer. If somebody has the information, off the top of their head, that would be great to let me know once I ask the questions. But this could potentially be a lengthy discussion, and I don't want to take up the whole meeting today doing this. We might consider another time specifically allocated to have a more detailed discussion about this. So I'll just move in with my questions. And my first question is, how much money does the county have available to complete this project? And do we have, well, I'm trying to get a handle on how much money we have allocated, what's available, what is the maximum amount that we could spend or that we've budgeted, because I haven't seen that. Does anybody have that?
Commissioner Godu, the thing is that can vary widely because it's like the appetite for the board and for the delegation as a whole, how much of fund balance they want to empty out for the building. I mean, what we have in unassigned, as they would call it, unassigned fund balance, would be 20 million plus just for that. We have about 4 million in capital fund balance. That's from positive results from Jude's management of prior projects. We have, again, I'm proposing that for the FF&E that should come forward from mostly at least the next two budget cycles, from hopefully the non-expendable equipment line in the departments are moving there. And some maybe from capital fund expense as well. Again, so the breakout that you saw before was related to the actual costs or estimated costs at that point in time, the 66+ million. Again, that only included a small portion of that 20 million of unassigned fund balance. I think it was about 4.7 million that I said was like committed fund balance or fund balance that could be committed. Unfortunately, on those revenue sources, $2 million from the state of New Hampshire for our increased FMAP for fiscal year 2021, the state's now kind of reneged on giving the 11+ million that they owe to the counties. They kind of dropped that ball during the budget process last fiscal year, and they're not revisiting it. And because we're looking, I guess, as the Association of Counties and as a whole, trying to get some other things done as far as from the long-term care side of things or categorical assistance expense side of things, I guess it's not going to be pursued. And now going further. So basically we would, again, so from that 20 million unassigned fund balance, you know, again, we can go all the way up to there, but thing is, then you don't have a, you look bad as far as for credit rating agencies, for going out for bonding. Usually, National GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, says that you should have anywhere from like 12 to 17% of your budget appropriations as unassigned fund balance reserves. I think even the other towns would get a little squeamish if we start draining our fund balance because they're worried that we're not gonna have that to use to offset future tax increases. So again, there's a wide range of what's actually available.
Okay.
What's
And-
available, I'll tell you, okay, we have 80+ million, that's
And-
available. But
And
Commissioner
we,
Coyle?
I
That
just,
was the answer I was looking for.
but we also don't know how much we're gonna allocate from ARPA too, because, because of our constantly changing amounts that we can apply because of lost revenue. So that number, as that number increases, we have a potential to rework some of the designated funds from ARPA. So that's another thing we initially looked at, but haven't reevaluated based on need and demand. And so like that, obviously something I think, I would propose that the commissioners sit down and, look at again, just as we're starting to proceed with this process. But that could fluctuate significantly too, to the tune of,
So in that
Millions.
80 million ballpark figure I gave, that's still holding true to the 32, 33 million total amount that was in the prior analysis done back last February. I think it was like 8 million for the community corrections, the 9-day in-house program for mental health, substance use, abuse services. And then another, I think it might have been only 24 million in that February analysis. I think later on it became 25 in the current allocated amounts from the commissioners to the different projects in their ARPA. So basically 33 million total right now is allocated amongst 3 different ARPA projects. Because substance use gets its own separate project number, mental health services gets its own separate project number, and then the other like 24, 25 million overall for the departments to move into the main part of that building. That's falling under expenditure category 1.4, which is to prevent the occurrence, spread, and mitigation of COVID in
Lots of
congregate
moving
work
parts.
All right,
settings.
Can I interrupt a little bit, Chuck? You're giving me way too much more detail than what my question really entails. And I appreciate that detail because it's information we need to know. But I just want to know how much money, we were just presented with a new budget that's $74 million. And I'm proposing adding another phase to this. Plus, I think there are some expenses that have not been accounted for. And I'm just trying to figure out if we have a budget, and it sounds to me like we do not. It sounds to me like we'll work on it as we go. Because I don't have a bottom line number, knowing that we have $80 million. That's good. So we don't have to go to and the follow-up question is, at what point do we need to go to the delegation and gain approval? We've gotten approval for a certain amount of money, I assume, and I know that they approved putting a bond through. But do we need to consult with the delegation and get their approval for any of the spending that we're doing on this project up to $80 million, say?
So I'll try to answer that, and if I'm wrong, someone can correct me. So the building committee, which consisted of a few delegate members, basically finished their work and handed over the project to the commissioners. That's where we stand now. I do not believe the delegation, and you may correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you've talked to anybody, but I'm sure that they're either, most of them are unaware of what your proposal would be. So those are some of the things that we've got to work out, but, so most of the delegation are comfortable with, where we're at currently. That the commissioners have control of this and we're taking it from there. So if I'm wrong in that,
Well, okay, so that, I'm still not clear, and we can answer this later. At what point do we have to go to the delegation for approval of any other new expenses?
Yeah, that's fine.
You know, and I guess that's just a matter of understanding how we're gonna
Yeah.
handle this.
Okay, anything else?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, so who has reviewed the overall design and space requirements? And are we going to be provided with a sign off that somebody is reviewed and approved for appropriate space allocations and adjacencies on the whole design? We were presented with architectural drawings this thick. And I'm not an architect. I don't know how to read those. They were nice pretty pictures.
I'll let Jude answer that for you.
All of the departments on an ongoing basis have been part of that development process, including adjacencies, space allocation, where they think they will be up to 20 years from now. The initial space allocation review looked at just that very thing. Where are you now? Where's the population of Rockingham going? Where do you think your department is going to be now and 20 years going forward? And we met every other week with all of the departments. They've reviewed, each individual room has been reviewed for a piece of furniture, window, no window in the door. Every single room has been reviewed with regard to equipment that's going to be in there, furnishings that are going to be in there, needs and wants. So that's been really thoroughly vetted, and that is what you see in the architectural plans right now.
Commissioner Coyle?
We just to back up, Commissioner Godu, we had an initially when we're talking about space needs, each department head came to the board. And we had meetings where we talked about needs and we made some cuts or changes or, so that process started at the beginning because it didn't, and as I understand it, really haven't, I mean, there's like level of detail, but fundamentally didn't change significantly from that initial authorization from the board. And that was quite some time ago, because that was the starting off point to get to where we are now.
So are we going to be asked to sign off on a document? I assume the architect's finished with his work at this point, or mostly,
I
or the
haven't,
design phase.
I haven't signed any documents since I've been here for the last two years, and
The
I don't
other
believe
contract,
Commissioner
I don't
Coyle
think
has
they sign
either.
off on the documents.
Yeah,
It just seems to me that we should be reviewing the plans, agreeing that this is exactly what we need and this is what we want, and we think that the architect has done a good job. Somebody should be reviewing that for us who knows how to read those plans and advise us, and I would imagine we would sign off on that.
I'd submit that I know how to read plans because I do building. So
Okay.
I'm happy to, I do building all the time. I'm working on a project right now, septic designs, planning, site plans, building plans. If you want to, I feel comfortable, personally, I feel very confident in the department heads in terms of, and like the collaboration that's taken place. But I think our option is to review those plans, and I'm sure that, the opportunity is there for each individual commissioner to meet with Jonathan or if you need some help or, want to get assistance in understanding those plans, but that's.
Well, what I'm looking for is somebody that is an architect that takes a look at the plans and tells us whether this is a good design. I don't know. Have you looked at the plans? It was a big, thick thing that we got. None of us were given any presentation on that. It's just.
Yeah, and first off, I can empathize with you, Commissioner Godu, because you're brand new to the county, so you're really you're catching up. For myself, Commissioner Coyle, I believe, I won't speak for her, but she can I believe that we've been through this process, we've seen this, we've talked to the department heads for their needs and everything. And I can understand where you're coming from because it's all brand new for you, but you have to understand that we've been through this process over the last, I want to say at least 6 years. And we've, in my eyes, we've dotted a lot of i's and crossed a lot of t's that I'm satisfied myself, but I can certainly understand your viewpoint. So, so for us, I think it's more rehashing things. I'm comfortable in the process that we've gone through. So, Commissioner Coyle?
I mean, the only thing I could think is that we could have another, like a working session or like, you know, and ask Jonathan potentially, do you think he'd be willing to come back again? I know it's demanding, but we could, why don't, you know, to have a working session, to have him go over sort of that level of detail. So that, and go through explain the plans. That seems like a good solution to maybe any concerns or understanding.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think that's, I mean, we have the power to do that. We can bring them in at any time, and Commissioner Godu feels that he needs to get up to speed, and I don't blame him, so we have every opportunity to help him along with that process.
Okay, so I have a few other questions. We can move on. With regards to the budget, Harvey has given us a budget that seems to be only Harvey's budget. And I don't see a line item for architectural fees. And I also don't see a line item for contingency. And I guess I have a similar question about the contingency that we have for within our own budget, but it seems our budget is kind of floating right at the moment. And we're not going to get the guaranteed maximum proposal amendment for the contract until the end of March. And I mean, I guess that's going to be the first time we see a detailed budget. And then my question is going to be like, well, how much time do we have to review this and scrutinize it? And getting back to my first question, do we have enough money to pay for these things? So I see contingencies missing from this, and I see the architectural fees missing from this total of $74 million that we have right at the moment.
Commissioner Coyle?
There is a contingency line. I'm gonna pull it up, but it was at the very bottom.
While she's looking for that, Chuck, did you want to add anything on the other part of the question?
I mean, we've had the detailed piece before. Again, it's been a while since we had updated costs. I think there are, I think Jude could probably speak. We've separately budgeted or had some of the costs for Warren Street.
It is separate.
Yeah.
In a different location, as far as, that's all before run through the capital fund,
Right.
as far as for expenses, which is outside the general fund.
Okay.
And so that's been part of what's been part of the capital projects list that the delegation has approved, as far as what we spent on, you know, architect fees and other capital projects across the county. That happens annually, that projects list becomes, in total, we have an expense line in the general fund called capital outlay. And the list of capital projects that Jude proposes to the commissioners that then go forward to the executive committee of the delegation, then the delegation itself. That detailed listing all rolls up to the total for that one expense line, and we have had
Okay, so
architect fees in that before.
the architectural fees are not included in this budget, and it's included in a separate budget. So the cost of this project is, at this point, is $74 million plus whatever we have in the design phase. Is that, I mean, I'm looking for just a bottom line answer.
The
Not deep.
$74 million, if I could just point out, Commissioner, includes the solar.
I get that,
And if,
So,
So
and
you're gonna
that's.
back out 10.
but,
right.
but it doesn't include contingency, and it doesn't include
Hold
an architect.
Well, hold on, Commissioner Coyle has the number for you for the
Yeah,
contingency.
it says, at the bottom, it says fees, insurance and contingencies. And that's to the tune of, it looks like almost 9 million. It's
All right, I see it's at the bottom.
yeah,
And I think usually the contingency piece of that is like 10% of the total, generally speaking. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but usually it's about 10%. So if the top part's like 66 or thereabout, or maybe it's less, I don't have it in front of me. So like 6 million of that figure would be like contingency, and the other part would be the fees and insurance. And so that contingency might actually be on the solar as well. So you have to back out not just 10 million, but more like 11 million. Would have to
Because
come
that's-
out as being solar. And that is accounted for as a separate ARPA project.
Right.
Okay,
Okay,
So
that's all good, but it's still a little bit unclear to me, you know, what the fees are, what the insurance and how much is actually for contingency. I would think that that would be a separate line item. And when we do our budgeting for what we're going to spend on this project, we ought to have a line specifically for a contingency that we've set aside just, you know, for whatever changes might happen.
so,
Okay, so I'd like to get to the revision contract.
okay, first off, hold on a second, Commissioner.
Okay,
I can appreciate the questions that you have. On the agenda, it's really the discussion on the owner project manager. Do you have anything on that side of it? I think we can answer all your other questions, but I wanted to kind of bring it back to the topic that really we want to discuss.
Well, I had to get answers to these questions to lead into the rest of that discussion. And like I said earlier, I really don't want to take up the whole meeting doing this, but these are pending questions, I think, that at least need to go out there. And I'm not looking for a detailed answer right at the moment. I'm just trying to make
How
sure
many-
that
How many more
I get the
additional
question.
questions do you have? I can entertain, I mean, I can let you go. But,
I get 3 or 4 other ones.
okay,
I'll make them quick.
okay, go ahead.
All right, why is Harvey managing revision? Why do we not have a contract directly with the county for revision? And is Harvey charging us 10% to manage that, which is $1 million? Because in their contract, it says that they get 10% for any subcontractors, and it looks as if this is a subcontractor. So some fee is involved in here, and I'm trying to figure out how come I can't find any contract. I assume that there's a contract between revision and Harvey, but I can't seem to get a hold of it. Nobody's been able to send it to me.
So, Jude, you want?
Well, why don't we just go through, I think at this point, why don't you posit all your questions? And
Okay,
then we can take up your questions either offline, with more direct, or we can take them up for purposes of transparency. We can talk about them next week. And that gives, with more robust answers. Does that seem?
I have notes. I can forward all these questions to everyone. I just finished them last night. I was going to hand them off when I came in, but I couldn't make it in today. So-
Can you please include those to the commissioners too?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
So I have a question about revision. I have a question about why testing is under Harvey's control. I would think that we should have a third party that's independent, that's going to do all of the testing on the project. We shouldn't be paying Harvey to test their own work.
Well, I'm
And-
sorry,
and-
Commissioner,
Go ahead.
may I just have a clarification question? What do you mean by testing? Inspections? Because inspections are gonna be happening through, go ahead.
Well, there's a number of inspections and testing that needs to occur. I would imagine some should be done by a third party to be sure that we're getting the right material, and that third party should not be Harvey testing himself.
We do have inspections through the state fire marshal. State fire
And if
department.
he's talking like concrete.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, but the state, I have a question about the state fire marshal. Have we figured in that cost of maybe $150,000? And does the state fire marshal have under their availability to do all of the inspections that are required? No, I mean, there's much more that needs to be done for building and such that's not included in a fire budget.
Oh, yeah, of course. They're doing the full gamut of inspections and it's built into Harvey's budget.
And do they have, oh, it is, okay. We'll have to see where that is. I think that we need to get a detailed work session about all these details. You're right, I really bared down on some of the details. And I'm not comfortable that we have complete control of this. And that's the reason why I think we should be hiring an OPM, because I think we need more attention to these details, because here we are sitting, we don't have budgets set up yet. We have approximates, but everything seems to be in flux. And we're thinking that this is going to break ground in April. To me, I would think this should be like buttoned up pretty tight, minus whatever details need to still come from Harvey with the GMP portion of their contract. So I'll leave it at that. Can I suggest that we have a workshop to discuss these, and then?
Yeah, we can do that. And then if you have additional questions, just like I said, if you could share it with everybody that you're gonna ask the question to, include the commissioners if you don't mind. And we can certainly have more discussions on that.
And a
Okay.
working session seems great with the plans and everything. And then, I mean, it's, as I see it, I agree with Commissioner Chercello, which is like, I think it's good. The level of detail and being thorough is great, but I think that maybe if we have that working session, perhaps it will alleviate some of your concerns. So,
Okay, so I'm gonna, this is kind of circle back on the owner's project manager. Commissioner Coyle, do you have anything you want to add at all, or?
I think at this point, I think at some point we need to take a vote on whether we want to have this position. It seems like maybe we should just have that, to give Commissioner Godu an opportunity to have that working session before we make that motion. Commissioner Chercello or Commissioner Godu, do we want to make that motion now, or?
No, I really want to have a work session to discuss these details, because again, it's going to take some time, and
Yeah.
we shouldn't be taking up the whole meeting on it.
Yeah.
But it's necessary.
So I'm just gonna share how I'm leaning on things, if you don't mind. So I've been a delegate member for 8 years. And I've been on the commission for 2. I've seen this project. I've seen the work group that's been involved on both sides. And I think that at one meeting, we sort of had a small discussion as to our confidence with Jude handling things. I still feel strong that she's more than capable of handling that. However, I kept an open mind with your suggestion, Commissioner Godu. I met with Gino from Trident. I went down and talked to him, and he's very professional person. His company is A+. There's no doubt in my mind. But as I had mentioned before, I thought clerk of the work, and you had mentioned that you didn't think it was clerk of the work.
It's not.
Some of the discussion that I heard from the last week's meeting was that you typically bring these people on at the very beginning stages. We're halfway through it, all the design and everything. So to me, I'm still convinced I don't need a project manager. I'm convinced that, if you were even going to entertain anything, it would be clerk of the work. But that's my opinion. Like I mentioned, I kept an open mind. I went down, I talked to them. I also had discussions with the previous committee members. Ex-rep John O'Connor, who was the chair of this the building committee, as well as Representative Mills. And I asked their opinion because they dealt with this firsthand in a big time detail. Both of them told me that they have all the confidence in the world of Jude. And so I agree with them on that. The biggest fear that I have, I'm just sharing it with everybody, that was discussed at the meeting is that if there's any little hiccup, if there's any delays, we could be in jeopardy of our ARPA money. And that makes me extremely nervous because we've lost a little bit of time up front because of the well. That's just things that came up that was beyond our control. So that window's a lot tighter and, and no disrespect, I thought the architect mentioned that if you hired a project manager this time, they're gonna open up, they're gonna have their own questions and there's gonna be possible delays. And there's no way that I want to delay anything. So for me, I'm leaning as one commissioner, I'm leaning that I'm very comfortable in the process that we're in now. I don't feel that I need a project manager. But that's me, and I'll let Commissioner Coyle, if she wants to say something, she certainly speak there.
Commissioner Chercello, I echo your sentiments. I believe, and I thought, again, going into last week, it was nice to keep an open mind. And I think that though I have to say, my instinct was aligned with a lot of what Jonathan articulated at the meeting, which is, and he referred to it as the three-legged stool with the checks and balances system. And I think we have that. I feel like extraordinarily confident in Jude. And because she's done large scale projects, she knows this building better than anything. I loved how Jonathan was describing it. It's like, this is getting someone up to speed is only gonna cause potentially significantly problematic delays, as Commissioner Chercello articulated. And so, I guess there's two things we need to do perhaps, and I'm actually thinking I'm going to go forward with the motion with respect to having that position, because regardless of, I feel confident that, anything that's going to be coming out of a working session is not going to, I feel confident where I am. So I still believe that, a working session regardless is a valuable tool to, increasing so that we can all feel comfortable with our votes and our decisions going forward on anything that we have. But I feel comfortable moving forward with making a motion about this position, or the hiring of someone. It's not really the hiring of this role.
Yeah.
Commissioner
I would
Chercello, would you?
appreciate if you would wait until I send you this document that I got 4 pages worth of information that I think should be reviewed and considered before we make this motion.
Let me say this. I still believe there's value in getting you up to speed and feeling comfortable. But I don't really want to, me personally, I don't want to delay any more of the process. I think we need to get going.
There's no delay.
Well, it could be. It could be.
Jonathan's portrayal of what would happen was inaccurate in a lot of ways. It wasn't my position to be trying to combat. I asked questions just to hear where his positions were, but he clearly didn't want supervision, and he misrepresented what the operation of a project manager would do. It's not clerk of the works. It's very different, and it needs to be looked at. I assume that he doesn't understand what the difference is between a clerk of the works and a OPM.
So Commissioner, is that your opinion or is that Gino's opinion?
Both.
Both, okay. So I have no problem in having extra meetings to get everybody up to speed wherever we need to be as commissioners. I think that this is just on the commissioner side of things. Whether we make a recommendation to the delegation or not, I would believe, I don't know what your motion is, but
I think the motion is first that we need to approve the hiring of an OPM, and then thereafter, then we make a recommendation. If the board votes, as I see it, we would vote to approve the hiring of this position. If we agree this position is necessary, then we make a secondary motion to
request funding to refer to the delegation
Right.
for funding.
Yeah, that's the only way,
So-
that's the only way we can put money in.
Correct.
But the first step is deciding as a board whether we need to. So.
Well, why do we need, well, go ahead. I don't understand why we need the delegation's approval if we don't need the delegation's approval for other things. This should be included in the budget.
So
It's a small
Commissioner-
amount comparison to what this project entails. And it's an
So-
insurance policy because we are the fiduciaries for this. It's our responsibility to make sure this money is spent to the best of our ability.
And Commissioner, I have full confidence in my leadership team that that will be the case. So I have no qualms about it, and, you know, I can certainly respect your opinion. I don't share it. Only maybe because I've seen the project over the years, and I get that, so.
So I feel comfortable moving forward with the motion today. Commissioner Chercello as chair, do you want to entertain the motion or?
Yes, if you have a motion, read it, and then we can discuss it and vote.
So with that, I move to approve the hiring of an OPM for the construction of the new building that will house the county attorney's office, community corrections, registry of deeds and sheriff's department.
Okay, there's been a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second? Okay, there's no second. That means the motion. Can you reread that motion, please?
I move to approve the hiring of an OPM for the construction of the new building that will house the county attorney's office, community corrections, registry of deeds and sheriff's department.
Okay. Did you hear that?
I heard it.
He's not going to
All right,
second
so
it.
there's-
First of all, I'm not gonna second it, and there's no dollar amount associated with that, so I mean. I'm not interested in taking this motion up right now. I'm not seconding it.
All right, so I'll second that motion. Any further discussion on the motion?
I
just
think
wanna-
that we should table this.
No, we're in
motion
the
to
vote-
table.
we're in the vote. No, then that's
Well,
out
he
of
can-
order because we're in the mode,
Well, he can move to, he can make the motion, but we have to second, someone has to move.
yeah, but we're in the voting mode, so we can't
Okay.
entertain another motion, so. So if there's no further discussion, I'm just gonna poll everybody. Commissioner Coyle,
No,
Commissioner Godu,
Yes,
and I will vote no. So we're not gonna move forward there, but as I had stated before, if we need additional workshops to get you where you're comfortable up to speed, and please forward your questions so we can answer those. You have every right to feel comfortable with answers that you have questions to, so. All right, let's move on to the working group for opioid abatement fund. Last week, Commissioner Coyle started to talk about it. I want to apologize. I was a little bit hesitant and rude. It was a long day and I thought we could have brought it up, you know, at future meetings. So I was a little bit short with everybody and I apologize, but I did put it on the agenda for discussion, so I'll hand it over to Commissioner Coyle.
I mean, I guess I just wanted to open it up to a discussion about setting up a working group or something so that we can set up parameters for applications for, you know, or discussions and find out some of the needs of the department heads. That was my thinking. I mean, we have to think of this and, you know, there's some perpetuity to this because it's gonna be 18 years. So I think if we can set up some goals and criteria and also really get the input of, I mean, I can see the value from the sheriff's department, the has, you know, the county attorney's office, the jail, even other, you know, maybe even HR, I don't know, like anybody might have ideas on where some of there could be value in using some of these monies that we should try to arrange a working group to start getting the discussion going. And so that's what, I mean, it's,
How do you foresee that group being formed? What's the makeup?
I think we should just, I mean, basically have a roundtable to start getting ideas going. We generate some ideas. All the commissioners or one commissioner can attend or whomever wants to. And then the working group can bring the ideas back to the commission and the board can vote to, or, you know, make recommendations or vote to how we want to, you know, what would be the best way to use the money.
Okay, so do you envision like the departments that would most likely use it would be sheriff's department, county attorney, Department of Corrections, I believe, and I don't know if there's any other departments that would want to get into that discussion, but would we, maybe HR, I don't know.
Could it be used for like mental health, the mental health sector and some of this stuff for opioid?
I mean,
don't know
yes,
if there'd be an
absolutely.
aspect of-
So, yeah, I mean, that's why I don't think we should limit it to anybody. I think anybody who wants to show up and be a part of the working group, then
Oh,
all,
okay.
by all means, like, let's just get it, like, just an offline specific discussion. I know Superintendent Henry is, you know, sitting on the opioid abatement committee up at the state, for the state, and you know, he probably has a lot of valuable information he could impart upon us, and then, you know, do you have,
Well, what I was gonna suggest is I had actually printed the PDF, all of the state laws pertaining to the setup of the state's opioid abatement trust
Yeah.
fund and the 14 allowable uses of said funds, and the Attorney General has taken the stance that even our portion of the 15% funds that we got to, well, still pass through the state, but that were for us because we're one of the 23 municipalities that had sued separately. Again, all the distributors and everyone else, that the AG's office still holding that for our piece. We also have to spend it on the 14 allowable uses cited in law. So I could forward that document to Layla. She could spread out to the division directors, department heads, and see if it applies to them, and maybe they can reach out to the commissioners and see if they want to.
yeah, that's great. Or, I mean, I'd love to read, I'd love to read all the, you know, all the laws too. So I appreciate you generating that
Okay.
and distributing that. And that would be a great way to come to the table actually to, as a starting point. So, you know, because when you read, if you read through all the qualifications and the statutes, that's like, it generates ideas, I mean, at least, so.
Commissioner Godu, did you have any questions or concerns?
No,
I'll say. Okay. At first I was a little bit concerned because I didn't know if it was gonna be, you know, like one particular commissioner or not, but you had mentioned it's open to everybody.
Right.
So, you know, I'm fine with that. You know, I just see it as more of a, gathering information and working as a group specifically for that purpose.
And just one other thing is, it also has the potential, if the county wanted to, if we knew of an organization that was doing good work, that we could even do a grant from our own money to
Some
them to
recipients.
further their work. If, like, for some reason, maybe the state's opioid abatement committee denied them a grant or whatever, whatever organization just needed more
Oh, I see.
funding or something like that. So even though this is not, you know, ARPA monies, the state can do still of its own accord, do some monies to help support program that's doing work that the county finds valuable. I'm just throwing
Yeah,
that out
so
there.
we can have like generate a sub-recipient application, for
Yeah.
instance, yeah.
So would
Yeah,
you,
so
do you
there's that
envision,
potential too. So
do you envision meeting monthly, or how do you think that we should,
I mean, I think the organization will be like that, as part of that first working session, we'll get a sense of like the demand, how often we have to meet, sort of some of those things that the working group would be established within that meeting, like, I mean, I don't think I'm exclusive, you know. There's a lot of brain power in the Zoom land in this room, so. I don't-
So, yeah, so let's keep in mind too, that, you know, if there's more than one commissioner, that we have to post that.
Right.
You know, it's that type of thing, so, we'll have to think about
I
that.
mean, understanding requirements for like, you know, county attorney and court schedule, things like that. I mean, I would propose maybe we could say something like maybe 1 o'clock on Thursdays. I don't know if that works for people, or, I mean, schedule, or is that VOP's had?
She's on mute.
It is, but I don't, if, I can have some, if I have a violation of probation, I can easily have someone cover that for me.
Okay,
And I don't know if, like, you know, the sheriff's department or Department of Corrections has any other restrictions, but I mean, it's just one idea, like and that way, you know, for the commissioners that just want to.
I like
stay
the
through
fact
them.
that it's open to anybody. I was a little, like I said, I was a little bit concerned originally. I thought it was just gonna be a very select, small group. But, I like that other form, I like that format better. That's my personal opinion, so.
Does Scott has his hand up still?
Yeah, I think I think he must push that button.
He left it on. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi.
All right, so, we can dive into more details, as we go along, maybe we'll get some more ideas on that. I think it's a good idea, but since we have all this money, we've got to figure a way, it's dedicated money, so it has to be used for those purposes, but. All right, we're gonna move to, finance office, participation package for the National Opioid Settlement with Teva, Allegra, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart Group. Allergen.
I move to accept the participation package for the national opioid settlements with Teva, Allergen, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart. And authorize the chair to sign all necessary documents.
Motion's been made. Do I hear a
Second.
Seconded. Any further discussion on that? If not, I'll, Chuck.
I was gonna bring up something, and I apologize, Commissioner Godu, I had actually, prepared a handout, but I'll email it to you. Or Leila can, I'll give it to her. Basically, it outlines what the county's estimated share is gonna be of these settlements. And in total, for the 5 settlements, and some of the distributions go all the way out 15 years, but in total, the county will get just shy of 2.9 million, which will go into that special revenue fund as the opioid abatement fund. And it'll be able to be used for some of the purposes that the committee we were just talking about would kind of discuss. And obviously, the commissioners approved any expenditure of monies out of that fund.
And also significantly, there's a separate category for Narcan. which
Yes, that
is-
was an odd settlement part
Right.
with Teva, that the cash settlement was 3.3 million, but there was another 3.3 billion on the federal side. But another 1.2 billion of free supply of Narcan, and if those are part of the settlement didn't want to go that route, then be 240 million to be distributed amongst all the,
Right.
all those entities party to the settlement.
So that's significant for both the Department of Corrections and the Sheriff's Department, who are,
Yeah.
might be responding and have to use Narcan.
Yeah.
I'll make sure this document gets to you, Commissioner Godu.
Thank you.
So, further discussion on the motion? If not, on the motion, Commissioner Godu?
Yes.
Coyle?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Thank you. Human resources, recruitment statistics and initiatives for consideration and discussion. We have 2 job board statistics and recruitment and community outreach efforts and use of ARPA funds. And I'll hand it over to Allison and Autumn. If they want to chime in.
Yeah, so Commissioner Godu had asked about some statistics on the Indeed, how that is generated and what that looks like. So Autumn did her good stuff and pulled those reports, and I'll let her talk about some of that.
Sure. So I was able to kind of go through and pull data specifically from the last 2 months, just to give us some recent data for the Indeed sponsorships and how we incur those costs. So basically, the sponsorship allows us to go to the top of the list, if you will. Now, mind you, it's kind of like a chess game because every other employer is also sponsoring their positions. So we kind of have to gauge, what sponsorship levels are needed for each position. Now, how we incur those costs is basically we are charged when a job seeker clicks on our ad. And then we are also charged when a job seeker clicks apply on company website, which is the button that redirects them to our job application. Now, it's more expensive of a cost for them to click apply on company website. And that is all that Indeed can track, because once they get to our county website, it's ultimately up to them if they want to finish our application or not. So I had provided some Excel spreadsheets that tell the cost per position. And it varies quite widely, depending on the market that the position is in. So for example, in LNA is much more expensive to recruit for, because first of all, it's a much more competitive job market. So it could cost anywhere between $50 and $85 for somebody to click apply on our company website. Whereas a receptionist, for example, it may only cost us $5 or $10. So it depends on that specific, week and how many employers also have their positions posted within that same market. It also depends on how many other employers are sponsoring their positions. So these numbers are always a moving target. They are always ever changing depending on the market and any changes that have been incurred in the market. So the sponsorship amounts are also a moving target as well. They change I try to check it about once a week, once every 2 weeks by running reports, connecting in with our division directors to see what the highest need is, and being able to forecast future sponsorship needs.
Questions, Commissioner Coyle?
So it looks like from an analysis of the spreadsheet that some of the trade positions, more trade oriented, don't have the ROI.
Right.
So, and so maybe, it's like, what can we extrapolate away and maybe redirect? Because like, for instance, we're not hitting, like, we have a lot of openings in engineering and maintenance,
Right.
but not, that Indeed is not an effective recruiting strategy based on the ROI. However, it's highly effective in some other areas. Is that what you're finding? I mean, that's just like my armchair analysis, so please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're
And then-
absolutely, you're absolutely right. So with Indeed, it's, like I said, it's a chess game. So if we choose to not sponsor a position like our third shift maintenance
Yeah.
technician, we could potentially be losing job seekers that are out there searching for maintenance. Now, are they few and far between? Most likely. A lot of them are doing a more grassroots approach to their positions. But when it comes to not sponsoring those specific positions on Indeed, if there is a job seeker out there that's searching for maintenance, our positions at the bottom of the list. So we lose the opportunity to have them at least view our ad if we do not sponsor those positions that are high need, although it may not be working at the level that I want it to be working when it comes to Indeed. I don't want to miss out on any potential job seekers that could be searching for maintenance positions and not coming across ours because we don't have it sponsored. So that's why I do continue to sponsor the ones that could potentially be not working, because we do have the potential of a job seeker still going on to Indeed and searching for those career opportunities.
But do you think we'd be better off removing those positions from Indeed and redirecting the money to, money in a different direction, a more grassroots, as you identified?
So we're doing unemployment security, because that's a basis where I know in Manchester, a lot of trades go to unemployment because they're in and out. They're taking a job, they're moving from a job, they're coming across country, they're moving during seasons, a lot of trades I've found. So we've done unemployment securities. I think she's done the trade schools. She's posted where she can, getting on different boards, libraries, everything, whether you're seeing it. It's just the trade field is a specialized field. It's a hugely aging population, and resources were cut probably 10 or 15 years ago to push college. And the trades, in those local schools, trade schools were pushed out for money. And now we're finding that, those individuals that were being pushed into college that really didn't want to and didn't know what they wanted to do, they're making more money than some of those college professionals now or have gone to school. So there's a ignition of the trade schools being popular in the high schools as well, having them out there. I know Manchester has one. I know down in Massachusetts, they have one too, but there's only so many of those kids going into those trades programs and coming out, and they're coming out and the need is so great. They're being scoffed up like pretty quickly. So we're a county, our pay is progressively lower than it is out in the trade market. And Autumn is trying everything she can do. A lot of it's word of mouth with them too. I've found, I've got a buddy that's working on a job and he wants to work with him. There's a lot of that going on. So we're trying to push the referral bonus as well for our staff. But I think having it still out there, it can be a low dollar value, but it's not absorbing our budget in the Indeed. Because what she's doing is she's reallocating monies for sponsorship each and every week. And sometimes I'll go in and we'll have a discussion and I'll say, push that one forward and let's deplete here because you've had so much activity on it. So she's rerouting 2 days later to something. So it's like an analytical process that she's doing with the money and facilitating those dollars each and every day.
Right. And as we can see on the apply starts row or column, I should say, on that spreadsheet, we've had 8 people go forward and start our application, but unfortunately haven't received those applications on our applicant tracking system because ultimately they chose to not complete that application. So at least the exposure is there, is how I think about it. And at least they are going and clicking on our website. Now, further, I also reach out to people actively on Indeed, people that have recently updated their resume or are out there searching for a position. I have up to about 300 contacts per month that I can go and reach out to people actively. And that allows me to continue fostering that relationship with people that could have potentially clicked on our advertisement, but not followed through the application. Here I am emailing them again, letting them know about the opportunity and our benefits package and all of that stuff.
Do you just have email information from them, or do they also put a phone number down?
So how Indeed does it is you can email the job seekers when you're making the first contact. But once they indicate that they are interested in the position, I get an email back. They just have to click a button, yes, I'm interested. And then from there, I get all of their contact information. So I call them.
And the only reason why I'm saying that, like I'm in the industry that I'm in, I have to text clients as well. And sometimes the personal phone call, sometimes it's a little bit better than an email. I find it's a little bit more personable and you may get different results, but I was just curious. I thought that that's pretty good. Being proactive is excellent. And
Yeah.
it gives us the opportunity to do that.
I wish that Indeed allowed me to reach out to people over phone as the first contact, but it is just email for the
Okay,
first contact. Unless that specific applicant has decided to put their phone number in the application, then I would call them.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they have to indicate that they're interested. And then from there, I receive all of their contact information and I call them or I text them.
Commissioner Godu, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
I think that the Indeed portion of this is being managed rather well. I think that we should just continue with the Indeed. My questions on this program are related to what we should do in addition to Indeed, and I'll chime in on that when we move on.
Okay.
So the second page of that is we looked at the different job boards and you can see the different amounts for costs on those. But the national platform really is Indeed driven. We kind of outlined where the markets vary on Career Builder, ZipRecruiter, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really more administrative professionals, and we really don't have any hard pressed issues filling those positions. It may take a couple of weeks of where someone wants somebody the next day, but typically in the administrative end of things with Indeed, we've done very well with those. ZipRecruiter and Career Builders, ZipRecruiter is not as well, but their monthly charges are, higher. And again, it's not as, they don't have as many job boards on there that they extend out to. So we've really kind of honed in on Indeed like everybody else. And I think that's where your comfort level is as far as doing that at this point in time. But we wanted to see what comparisons they were for those job boards.
And also on Indeed, whenever we sponsor a position, regardless of the dollar amount we allocate, as long as it's sponsored, they also automatically post those positions to Glassdoor as well. So if you go on Glassdoor, all of our sponsored positions are on there as well.
Okay, good. Yeah, anything else, Allison?
I think on the outreach efforts, I just want to make sure, a couple of weeks back, I know last week there was some discussion about some stuff that we had presented, but prior to that, there was a month or two prior to that, that we had brought forth some ideas. And the board's wish at that time were, if you wanted to pursue anything, come back to us and bring what the dollar value was to that. So last week, our intent was just to kind of outline, and I had asked Autumn if she had a wish list what would it be? And what would her two, you know, what are the first two or three tags that were like must-haves for you if you could have it? So what you found was the LinkedIn, which was at no cost. And then you found the podcast that was minimal, you know, under 2,000. The other stuff were just ideas that she had started to network throughout the region, Rockingham County and beyond,
Yeah.
that she came up with. It wasn't that we were saying, go with it. It was just, we wanted you to see she's thinking outside the box, the greater box of things, to look at more globally how we can kind of get not just our name, but pictures of maybe our employees in the name or something like that, that's going to be seen every day driving or whatever. And that's what you're going to see here was the community, the recruitment community outreach.
Yeah.
And she just wanted to let you see kind of what that would look like if we wanted to kind of do something in that end. So that was what was there for that. And you can expand on any of that.
Sure. So I had moved forward with asking, requesting for the Coast Bus advertisements because I see them everywhere. I see them with, you know, Heritage Home that has their advertisements and different employers that are out there that are advertising. And so I see them, so I know that our other job seekers are seeing them, especially in this coast area. So that's why I wanted to move forward with at least this for now. I do have, you know, exciting news that the shorter clips for our recruitment marketing video have been completed. My apologies for the delay. I did email them to you just this morning, so you can feel free to look at those later today. But I will be having additional recruitment marketing campaigns that I hope to bring forward within the next few weeks. So for now, before, you know, I got those videos, this was the idea that I wanted to bring forward. And, you know, the cost is, it isn't too bad for a full year. It certainly is your typical advertising cost expensive. But the good news is it can be a moving target. So we can choose to do 1 month, we can choose to do 2 months with them. But the most cost effective would be a full year that we pay for every 4 weeks. We sign a full year contract as opposed to just doing a month-to-month contract with ATA Outdoors.
And this is the signage on vehicles or?
It's a bus.
The bus.
It's
The
the-
Coast Bus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, so the public transportation in our area.
Yeah, so. Just the first thing that pops in my mind is I don't see it in my neck of the woods in Rockingham County and Derry and Londonderry and Salem.
Mhm.
You know, those 3 towns are really pretty big.
Mhm.
So we lose that opportunity because that's really towards a specific area. And so I don't know. I mean, and maybe we try it and see if it works and then we can expand it. I don't know, but I know Commissioner Godu is sort of in the marketing industry, so I don't know. Do you want to chime in on this one, Steve?
Yes, I do. I'm not in favor of doing outdoor advertising for this position. It's too generalized. It only goes to the places where the buses go. And it's good for some things. I think in this case, a different approach would be more efficient. And the approach that I'm looking to employ that I'm going to suggest that I think we should be doing is a direct approach, direct marketing that uses direct mail, geo-targeting, and social media advertising. Now, the way this would work is that we would need to identify the potential employees. So for instance, I downloaded from a state agency, I forget the name of it, everybody who was licensed for anything in the entire state. So we need licensed nurses and nurses' aides, and we may need electricians and other plumbers, you know, that are licensed. And I know that's a very specific area that would be separate. But we get this data, we get the name, address, try to get telephone numbers and email addresses, and we'll be able to target the specific people would be looking to hire. For instance, we're looking for nurses, so we should send a postcard out to every nurse that is registered as a licensed nurse in the state, or at least, or maybe we would separate that to a closer geography of where they live, you know, because maybe somebody in Coos County is not going to drive all the way down here, but we would, you know, identify that by a database. And there's some data companies that we can use to assist us with getting the right data. And then once we have a person's address, they're able to target the IP address that's related to the specific geography to each, the list of each person. And what happens is we can target to those IP addresses ads. So when somebody who's in the home of the person who is a nurse, for instance, they'll go on Google or they'll go on some other page, and all of a sudden there'll be a pop-up ad to say, hey, we're hiring nurses in Rockingham County. And we can do that to all of these addresses, and we can get, the challenge is getting the data. The data is available, the limited amount of data seems to be available through the state, but we can use that to enhance. And I've been getting some counts from a company called AccuData that does this, and that will append, like they'll get I could just give them a list of names and they'll find all the addresses and emails and telephone numbers for those names. Now, it's not going to be 100%, but it builds us a list. So generally, I think that we should be doing a direct advertising approach, targeting the people, locating the people that we want to hire that are qualified in those trades, and sending out emails, social media ads, Google ads, and postcards, direct mail.
Yeah.
So, Commissioner Godu, I can speak to the Board of Nursing. We have done those direct mailing postcards to them. You have to purchase the list. I think it's $500. Then they send you the information. They will not release phone numbers. You will get their mailing address, and we have done that in the past, and we have tracked that, and we have gotten we did track that. It was a targeted marketing, and we did not get anybody for that. But you have to consider, they announced that a couple years back. And so every nursing home, every hospital, every kind of independent place purchased the list as well. And so I had family members that were in the nursing field, and they were getting 5 and 6, postcards at the same time. That's kind of trickled off now because it was kind of pushed around 2-3 years ago. But I do agree, some marketing for sure. But we've kind of gone the route with the state, the Board of Nursing, with the paying that cost, because then there's the postage and everything else. We do the cards and stuff like that, but we did not get anything for doing that. But I do believe some other data driven type of stuff that you're talking about, we could look into for sure, to see if that's something we can move forward in. I don't know what that would be, because I think we'd have to submit an RFP potentially, because I don't know what the cost of that would be, or bids on that. I'm not sure. But we could certainly look into that for sure.
So I'm just gonna chime in. I sort of agree that the targeting is in my industry, we call it cold leads and warm leads. And what I think Commissioner Godu is talking about is more warm leads, because you're targeting the actual people that are licensed to do that work.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, like in my industry, in real estate, you can find companies that have all kinds of data. I mean, and it's just amazing the information they actually have. But obviously cost, we have to kind of consider that
I don't
too.
know what it costs, so we have to look at that.
Yeah, so maybe what we'll do is, we'll have a further discussion with that. Maybe we can get some ideas of cost. Maybe Commissioner Godu, you can find out what some of those costs may be, just to share with us. And
I'll share some resources.
That would
Okay.
be wonderful.
That'd be great.
Because then Autumn can run with it and connect in with them and start having some discussions to get an idea of what that looks like and what it would entail. That would be great.
yeah, perfect. All right, anything else, ladies?
Just regarding the social media, Commissioner Godu, that you had mentioned, with the shorter clips of the recruitment marketing video that we have received, I am looking to start pushing out social media campaigns with those clips. So we will start to see those come through. And I do have some additional advertising campaigns that I plan to bring forward within the next couple of weeks in regard to those shorter clips for the videos.
Great. That's
So this
awesome.
was just in addition to what is kind of coming down the pipeline.
My favorite thing is Allison said, you think outside the box, and that's exactly what we need. So keep up the good work, Autumn.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, we're mental health clinician agreement, I believe.
I move to approve the mental health clinician agreement through the employee assistance program with Exeter Hospital as submitted by the senior director of community.
Motion's been made
Second.
Seconded. Any further discussion on that?
I do.
Commissioner Coyle?
Just quickly, so as I understand it from the contract, it's 16 hours per week for the clinician, is that correct?
Yes,
And that gives each employee 6 sessions.
so
Up to-
if somebody reaches out to them, they'll
Yeah.
afford them 6 sessions,
Correct.
yeah. And then they'll try to work with their insurance, they'll kind of determine where they're at and then try to work with our insurance
Correct.
company to kind of hopefully get them in a pipeline much faster than having to wait 4 or 5 months.
Wonderful. And then it's $100 per hour. And what are we doing for the budgeting end of that?
That was coming out of
Out of
the
the-
ARPA funds for the
Okay.
1 year.
For the
Uh,
first year, and then
yeah.
theoretically, so that could get
We'll
going right
assess.
away, and then theoretically, if we're seeing in the next few months that it has some like
Traction.
traction, then we can budget it for. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, if not on the motion, Commissioner Coyle?
Yes,
Commissioner Godu?
Yes,
I will vote yes. SOAR, SOAR, information distribution.
I move to authorize the human resources, for human resources to distribute information regarding the SOAR, which is the survivors of abusive relationships, to make it available to employees as recommended by the Senior Director of Human Resources.
Motion's been made. I'll second. The discussion, any discussion? Hearing no discussion on the motion, Commissioner Coyle?
Yes.
Commissioner Godu?
yes,
I will vote yes. Long-term care services, Jason Smith.
Sure, I move to approve the updated agency billing rates for the MAS staffing and authorize the chair to sign all necessary documents as recommended by the Senior Director of Long-Term Care Services.
Motion's been made,
second,
seconded. Any further discussion?
Just that the last time, I'm just gonna note that the last time we had updated billing rates with this staffing agency was October 21. So,
Thank you.
Yep.
On the motion, Commissioner Godu?
yes,
Coyle?
yes,
And I will vote yes. Okay, we're on department head updates. I'm gonna start with, Pat Conway, because I don't know what her time schedule is, but I see her here and this is like the first time in a long time that she's been here for the whole time, so. Pat,
Thank you. Thanks, commissioners. I'm hoping I'll be able to attend the meetings a lot more since we've been able to hire 3 attorneys. They've all started. We're just getting them up to speed. But it's my hope that and goal to attend all the meetings. And I apologize for not doing that in the past. But as you know, it's just been pretty crazy here. We've had some really successful trials the last few weeks. We had a aggravated felonious sexual assault that was tried by one of my lead attorneys, John Mara in Stratford County, about 2 weeks ago. He got some guilty verdicts. I had a trial last week, a kidnapping trial, and the person was convicted. We also had a bench trial on an aggravated DWI with serious bodily injury last week. It's still pending. The judge took it under advisement. And right now, I have a couple of folks prosecuting Dennis Reed, who is charged with multiple counts of aggravated felonious sexual assault. And we expect it's going to be at least 2 weeks, maybe a 3-week trial. So we are extremely busy here, but we're having positive results. And I'm really proud of my staff who is really working hard to successfully prosecute these cases and to work with all the victims in these cases. So that's really great, positive news. We do have 2 prospects for our open legal assistant positions. We actually did hire one of them. We're just going through the background check right now. And there's a second prospect that we're hoping to offer a position to fairly soon, which is great because we're down, I think, 3 legal assistants right now. So excited about that. Just a reminder that Felonies First is going to come to an end in January of 2024. So that's something that we're starting to prepare for here. And I guess that's about it. Thank
okay,
you.
Thanks, Pat. I'm gonna go to Scott Priestley, who's up on the top there, who's called in. Scott, I think if you're on your phone, you can hit *9, I believe, will let you talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so, my department's fully staffed of one. And, I don't think I have anything to report. Besides that, I'm hoping to be in, my regular job, I have a holiday next Monday, so I'm hoping to be in, at the county to get moving on, getting some reconciliations completed, to get them up to date. And I will try to get in on some of these meetings, but it's a little tough, with me having a full-time position, and I'm pretty busy here at my, current position, so.
Understood. Just a quick question. How's that one employee doing?
He's okay. Doing all right.
All right. Thank you.
Giving you any troubles?
Gonna go to Kathy Stacy, Registry of Deeds. Hey,
Good
Kathy.
morning, everybody. I really don't have anything much to report. It's pretty quiet over here. We're catching up. We're doing some project work, bringing everything up to speed, redoing some old plans into the new system so that everything's pretty much all the same. And we're actually finding a lot of errors in which predate obviously staff that are here. This is the old stuff from the 60s. So, but other than that, everything's business as usual. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Sheriff's Department. Sheriff, I said the sheriff.
Yeah, good morning. Nothing new to report. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, that's just as quick as my liaison report, so. Very good. Let's go to Jason Henry. Morning.
Good morning. A couple updates. We put an email out to all the courts yesterday. September 1 is our launch date for changing the STAR program from 28-day in-house program to a 90-day in-house treatment program. In anticipation, getting the bumps worked out as we move towards the new community corrections. So we're going to be having meetings with the courts coming up to kind of fill them in on that. I just had it this past week, opioid abatement committee meeting on Monday. We're gonna have another one on March 20th, or more in-depth conversations of how to do reimbursement, especially upon the MAT, since none of the counties were funded in the first round. So we're gonna try to find a mechanism that we can come to an agreement on. So hopefully, when we put this next round in, we'll be able to get funding to take care of MAT, or at least a good portion of it. So that was a good, healthy discussion. RSA 30B, Superintendent's Authority, there is a new amendment that's going to pass under 20, it's going to be under 27, which will just add that for feminine hygiene products that we have to give them out as many as they needed, basically, which we do anyways, but somebody want to put a bill in and memorialize that in the law, so it's just going to be added to RSA 30B. Felonies first going away, that's going to be, just so you know, I will remind everybody that with felonies first, that dropped the numbers down to about 70 to 70 plus inmates inside the jail. That's probably going to bring back those 70 plus inmates at some point, because of it's not going to be early case resolution. So we'll see how that goes. Beginning of April, we'll be working with Autumn and making a recruitment video. And February, it looks like February 21st, I have people from immigration coming up for preliminary talks, referencing maybe holding some ICE holds here at the jail, possibly long-term at a fee for the county. So that's coming up in the near future too. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. We're gonna go to Jason Smith. Morning,
Good
Jason.
morning, Commissioners. I have Michelle Melanson-Fritz here as well with me.
See her. I apologize, Michelle.
She's hiding in the corner.
Yeah.
Let's see here. This week, we've had 2 employees test positive for COVID. We will be continuing to test residents on the affected unit. Residents that are positive are over on our skilled unit in isolation. Also, as Commissioner Coyle mentioned, now that the positivity level is at medium, as she covered, face masks are optional in non-resident populated areas such as offices here or finance department, and I'll see as fit as what you want, but within the nursing home, non-resident populated areas, you can remove your mask. We had two state surveyors for life safety show up this week for a 42-bed assisted living facility. So that was quite interesting to have two surveyors here for our ALF community. One was training, so they went over everything with a fine tooth comb. Jude will report and provide update with that. But overall, there were some issues. Everything can be rectified and is already or in the process of that was reviewed and looked at. In addition to that, as Commissioner Coyle mentioned and Jude regarding two pipes burst in our skilled unit. They were unoccupied resident rooms. Unfortunately, it did leak down to our assisted living community and affected a couple of rooms where carpets were cleaned and ceiling tiles will be replaced shortly. We are working on our new marketing brochure. Proposal just came out for that, a new draft, I should say. So once that draft is reviewed, we'll be forwarding it to the commissioners for input as well. Michelle?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Nursing is actually in pretty good shape right now. We are actively participating in a number of different mock surveys. And to those of you who aren't familiar with that process, is we have people that come in and sort of look at our clinical practices, review policies, and get out on the units and actually observe the care that is being provided to the residents, and then provide us feedback on how we can improve or change certain clinical practices. So that's very informative to us. And off of those, we're also opening up a lot of education to nursing staff and also staff in different departments. Like, for example, today, we have education coming in from an outside provider. One of our hospice providers are coming in, and they'll be reviewing some clinical documentation with the staff. Yesterday, we had some education on heart sounds for the direct nursing staff. And we hope to open that up to, you know, a lot of different opportunities for education. So it's a good way to identify those areas. And really, that's pretty much about it.
Good, great. Thank you, Michelle. I see Becky Burns is on. I don't know if she has anything to add. If she'd like, I'm going to give her an opportunity. Becky, are you on? Do you have anything you want to add at all? She may be off. Okay.
She doesn't have audio on her computer, so she's all set. Thank you. We can't hear you guys.
Hold on a second.
We can't hear you.
If you don't mind.
No, I'm happy to. The assisted living life safety inspection, they did go over everything with a fine.
Cannot hear you.
Hold on just a
Oop.
second.
Yeah, I can't hear anybody except for everybody who's on the phone.
Yeah, she turned off on us.
Something's wrong with the microphone in the
Right.
commissioner's office, I believe.
Let's just try to silence her.
That's not even working. It's not.
Okay.
That's just the owl.
It's
just the owls.
So let's just see if we
Okay,
can.
it turned on. I don't see
Now
the
it's
light.
on.
There you go. Now it's on.
You're on.
Seems like it's.
Motion.
It's a little glitchy, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
very good. All
Okay.
right.
So am I okay, Commissioner?
Can you hear Jude?
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you. Assisted living, life safety, again, it was a fine tooth comb. One of the inspectors, it was his second year, he was a former administrator of an assisted living community, so he has a tightly focused perspective. For example, there was a speck of paint on one sprinkler head that they noticed. It wouldn't be fully functional, but we took the paint off and it was all good. There was some exposed wires in the main boiler plant on a boiler that was taken offline 10 years ago. So they were exposed, but they were not
Active.
exactly right. And so everything was taken care of, I think, with the exception of one switch cover that's being taken care of down in Dietary. I spoke with Henry yesterday, and I think we're completely up to speed on all of that. As far as operationally, this week has been a huge challenge, interestingly, for the extremes in the weather. So first we had that unprecedented cold snap. We did have 2 fan coil units in the ceiling and 2 residence rooms across the hall from each other, where the pipes froze and burst. We've had somebody come in and look at it. I have about a $14,000 proposal to repair them that we've submitted for the insurance company's review. The lead time on the fan coil units, just for informational purposes, 10 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So unfortunately, Jason's not using those rooms right now. And we're trying to figure, I think it, more than anything, it was just the crazy cold. But there may have been issues with the heat valves. We're trying to verify that everything is functional, although everything was okay on either side of it. And we've also turned off the heat wheels to make sure that there's no possibility of air changes.
Oh, yeah.
So that may have played into it just because it was so cold. We're looking at the programming so that we can force things to run if the temperature goes below a certain min, which we don't have right now on those units. So hopefully, if it ever happens again, we'll be able to forestall it. On the other end of the spectrum, the warm weather this winter has caused a lot of trouble for our wood chip vendor. They are unable to get into the woods to get chips. Ordinarily, they would have, and I sent a fax over that letter that she gave me yesterday in our standard. They would ordinarily have frozen roads in, December, November, December, and they would stockpile so that when the spring weather comes and they can't traverse because of the mud, they would have that stockpile. The roads never froze. And so they were notified yesterday by the road commissioner that they're closing roads, they're closing bridges, and they're not gonna be able to get chips out of the woods. They have a couple of loads that they had set aside for us already. So we expect to run out of chips next Wednesday.
Oh.
Yeah, we are reaching out to other vendors, and our current vendor has actually reached out to other vendors asking if anybody can help us. Unfortunately, everybody's in the same situation. If Hardwick can't get out in the woods, neither can Cusino, and so on. But we're searching far and wide. Debbie was making phone calls when I left. If we have to switch to oil, it will cost us more money, but everyone in the nursing home and the jail will be warm. That's why we have, backup systems for everything. And we are paying a fixed cost right now of $2.799 for oil.
Wow,
So,
that's not bad.
based on our last contract, and that's good until the end of March.
Yeah, that's good.
We're getting ready to launch RFP now. Yeah, I mean, it'll cost us more than wood would have, but all things considered, yeah.
We have the redundancy. I
Exactly
mean,
right.
that's like,
That's
thank,
it. That's key.
holy.
Yeah, so we're really happy about that piece of it. The only other thing, Robin's tracking the cybersecurity training as of yesterday. I think she had 30 some out of an original 120 some that she'd sent out, so she'll be sending reminders, gentle reminders.
I
to
know,
people
I'm
who
not
maybe haven't done it. It doesn't take that long,
I know.
and that's the third one. I mean, it was kind of fun. The first one was really funny, and the last one was kind of like a kid show. So, yeah, it wasn't bad. It was kind of fun. So,
That reminder.
that's all I have. All's well. We're busy just like everybody else, but plugging along.
Great, thank you, Jude.
Thank you.
Autumn, do you have anything that you want to share?
Sure, thank you. So as of current, we have some activity on the new clinical risk coordinator. I have a couple of candidates that I'm speaking to about that position now, hoping to schedule some interviews for what looks like next week. Some LNA interviews coming up, as well as some activity on the motor services position with Jude, which is great to see. This coming Monday, we have 2 correctional officers starting, as well as Jason Smith's executive assistant is starting as well. So after that, long-term care administration will be fully staffed. As Jason Henry had mentioned, I am working with him on the recruitment marketing video for corrections. And so we are still having to receive confirmation from the vendor, but looking at April 4th for a filming date, which is great. Otherwise, just kind of plugging away on getting everything all set up for our podcast. Worked with Allison yesterday to kind of finalize what we're looking to order, and also set up the LinkedIn employer page as well. And good news is we've already had some activity on it. I see that we've had 9 people indicate, connected into the LinkedIn page. So good to go there.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks.
Allison?
Our PPPs, the rollout of that are going well. UKG implementation is underway. This is a very busy week. We have 3 meetings plus our conversion meeting. Thank you to the Department of Corrections for coming over. As we noted before, we had the Sheriff's Office was our first jump launch with them coming in to talk about some information related to the new programming. And we'll have Jude in next. She doesn't know it, but she's followed up. We just finished with Jason Henry's group and they were delightful to have in and shared some, information that they'd like to see or potential questions and can it be done type of stuff. So we added that to our laundry list and that's been good. I am working on looking at our anti-harassment and discrimination. She and Finney Bass yesterday, she and Penny Green yesterday had through the New Hampshire Tech Alliance, a really fantastic program on harassment, discrimination. I was working with a consultant that I knew, but I may, dovetail over to this because it was a really well-run program and there was a lot of dialogue in it. We are still working on the nursing job descriptions to get done. I'm happy we're going to be launching off our first team meeting today for the sheriff's supervisors negotiations with our team. And then next week or the following week, we're with engineering maintenance to launch that. I haven't reached out to the union yet, either union agent, because I wanted to have our first kickoff meeting and get that underway. Workers' comp claim review. Lisa and I have done a claim review with the Lawson Group, just kind of letting us know what's out there. And I have an unemployment appeal hearing that was rescheduled. It's now on for February 15th. So that is what I'm doing right now. I did send out to all of the officials and division directors because we're hopping into budget time. If they are anticipating adding new positions, doing a change of status, title, looking for a wage adjustment to a grade level, that they get back to me by next Friday, I think I said, so that I can start working with them individually to start getting the documentation and the research and all the applicable stuff ready so that when you get into your budget stuff for your department, that'll be underway for you to, we'll be able to speak to the commissioners about that. So I look forward to getting that information back to you sooner rather than later, and thank you.
Very good, thanks, Allison. Chuck? Rental assistance, this week looks like about 40 households and $200,000. That might go up or not. Sometimes Joe and Jesse have a way of getting more cases in at the last second. What we're gonna try to do now on is we found that sometimes on Friday, things kind of erupt with emergency cases that can't really wait till the following Friday for a check date. So we might start doing like we did yesterday, or the other day, another additional run earlier in the week, take care of those, and then the normal routine one on Friday. I've seen an increase in the eviction notices, or at least the eviction letters going out that, that we put into the file as support for, that they're in danger of losing their apartment. So we've seen a bit in that. I'm not sure if Sheriff's Office has seen it, but thanks to them for any deputies doing servicing, that also gives them information on our program. We are little by little attacking so that group of 300 from SNHS as well. I think we're up to, I think it's like 190 cases now in our queue. So as we process 40 to 60 a week, another, we keep on getting a net positive that's happening. So again, it's very busy. Unfortunately, Gail hasn't been able to be with us in the office this week, so that's might have slowed down our number of cases that we've been able to get through, but hopefully she'll be back soon. We have officers meeting and executive committee meeting tomorrow for HAC. I know they've got, and that's gonna be at Primex now. We're at the 46th Donovan Street, the Primex location. And folks, I guess, are supposed to enter at the right side entrance because they're doing work now in their main lobby, I guess, by that entrance. So officers meeting, I think 9:30, and then executive committee meeting at 10. Thank you, Jess Edwards, and especially Kate Horgan. We did have the committee hearing on House Bill 203 with our little tweaks to our budget RSA that we share with Hillsborough County. We saw that there was a need for one last amendment to it, so I guess everyone did file that. And it seems like the committee chair Turcott is in favor and receptive to that. So that should be, I think, some positive tweaking to that budget RSA. There were some questions, I guess, by committee members as far as repeated questions, as far as, does this apply to any other counties, even though the RSA states Hillsborough and Rockingham? I think some state reps are wondering why are there some counties that have these little separate RSAs, but looking through the county ones on budgets, it's all spread out amongst many different county RSAs. In some cases, the county RSA budget is not defined from the department proposed all the way to supplemental appropriations in the RSAs. Now, that's one thing that's nice about the RSA that we have. It defines it from the department proposed budgets and the deadline for that, all the way through to what you do for supplemental appropriations.
Yeah.
So that's, and I think that's why the delegation officers like that too. Back when we were switching to a June 30 fiscal year, we had to get off of our commissioner's proposed budget RSA that we shared with Stratford back then.
Right.
That said to get the commissioner's proposed budgets out by, I think it was January 10th. And so back when we're on the calendar year.
Yeah.
So again, that's already 10 days into the new, back then, calendar year for our budget. But anyways, so I think Turcott's sharing the news as far as with other members. And we should be able to get that, I believe, that bill to pass, to be recommended to pass. I won't be at next week's BOC meeting. I've got the quarterly New Hampshire Public Deposit Investment Pool Advisory Board meeting. Unfortunately, it's scheduled to start, when we're having our meeting. I'm hoping that the week following, I'll have hopefully some paperwork or at least some requests regarding going forward with the grant application process with that energy grant, that we can have almost 250,000 go towards that solar. So it's the same grant that we talked about before, that CGB, energy efficiency community block grant program.
Yeah.
Alphabet soup. And just a reminder, I just mentioned about that budget RSA. Again, this might be the only RSA that defines when departmental budgets are due, as far as in the statutes. But March is officially budget month for the departments. So by law, by our law that we follow, March 31st is when the department budgets are due.
Okay.
So
That's coming up
I know that some departments, sheriff's office as an example, have already been doing some work on their budgets. And again, just to echo what Allison said, please respond timely to her request, because then we can at least get some initial estimates in the department proposed budget lines for, payroll and related lines that, for what you're hoping to accomplish for any, changes in rates of pay as far as regarding regrades, or potential regrades or new positions or what have you. So. And I'm gonna stop there. We're just very.
You can keep going. For
I could, I know that's probably, probably gonna put people to sleep. So, but anyways, this are all very busy.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, can I just interject, please?
Go ahead, Kathy.
I just want to let everybody know, we do not, I'm chairing the Association of County meetings tomorrow, and we do not have quorums for either meeting. So my suggestion to you all is get in touch with Danielle before the end of the day, so you don't drive up there for no reason. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you.
Kathy,
Thank you.
I responded last night that I was going, so thanks for letting me know. I mean,
Yeah.
so there's a potential it may be canceled. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
just FYI,
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you.
Kathy.
you're welcome.
Layla, what do you got? You have anything to share with everybody? That's.
Yeah, first week back, yeah, it's been very hectic, very busy. And I think fingers crossed. I'll get to move my office tomorrow.
Big day tomorrow.
Non-trivial effort, given how much
Yes.
you're up in your, like, all the things you're managing.
That's awesome. Okay, I
They
know you've
moved a
been
lot of
waiting.
boxes yesterday,
That's good.
so I can at least see the floor in my office now. That's good.
But not your new one.
All right, well, that's good. That's good news. All right, so I think we're finished there. I'm gonna go into new business. Does anybody have new business that they'd like to discuss? Commissioner Coyle?
Sure, and I don't want to steal your thunder, Allison.
No, I
but,
wasn't asking. that.
I was we are at a place of an MOU with respect to one of the unions, so, I am going to move to approve the MOU between the county and, the SEIU local, 1984 concerning a one-time discretionary bonus.
Okay, the motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. Any further discussion? Did Commissioner Godu get a copy of that?
No, I
It
just
was-
got it yesterday
Oh.
afternoon,
But
so I
it's
just brought
for
it.
The prior discussion.
Okay, can you make sure he gets a copy too when you get a good chance or?
Yeah, I'll send him a copy
Okay,
and then,
Perfect.
I'll need his signature.
All right, on the motion, Commissioner Godu,
Abstain.
okay, Commissioner Coyle,
Yes.
and I will vote yes.
okay.
So thank you very much for that. Any other new business?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Godu.
During this week, somebody quote dropped a dime and sent a letter, an anonymous letter to our office suggesting that credit cards were being abused, specifically on the 11th of January at the Rail Penny restaurant. So based on that, it was a very well-written letter too. It wasn't just like some dummy that just kind of scratched something out. It was like, it almost appeared like somebody knew something that was going on that they were really concerned with. In any event, that led me to a thought process of who has credit cards? What do we use credit cards for? And I had Chuck send me 4 months worth of expenses. I mean, of the credit card statements so that I could see what was spent. And I flagged, probably a dozen, reached out to the department heads, with questions about what they were spending money on. It gave me a good perspective of what we are using the credit cards for. And I didn't find anything that was unusual, and we didn't find anything to do with that Rail Penny expense, although I'm sure that we'll all be kind of keeping a lookout for that to see what was going on. But it did lead me to a question about what our policies are with regards to credit cards. One of the things I noticed is that some of the departments seem to have, I don't know if lavish is the right word, but having parties, at Christmas time and dinners and stuff, and other departments seem to have nothing in that regard. So it leads me to question, that probably this would go towards budget season. What should we be spending on if we're going to call this employee retention? And I'd like to know what our general policies are, and specifically with restaurant. Are we being certain that we're avoiding the sale and purchase of alcohol at these meetings? I think that that's probably something that we should be doing, but I'd like to know what kind of policies we have in place in general.
Yeah, Commissioner Coyle.
Commissioner Godu, as you know, the board approved the personnel policies and procedures of December 2022 as part of your new hire. It's available to you, and it's on our county website. It's a very comprehensive policy on the credit card use. It outlines everything from A to Z as far as who has access to it, what they have to do. It has to be registered with the, finance director, and it goes on and discloses what they can purchase and what they can't. Alcohol is very clearly stated on there that it is no way will be reimbursed, nor should it be part of any kind of use of a county credit card. As far as budgets, I can speak to mine. This past budget year, I was I was afforded through the budget process to get $750 to just put into a small line to do something for my staff throughout the year. Whether it's pizza to after open enrollment or something like that. But that's the basis of the amount of money that I could ever spend. I've never had that. I've always purchased everything on my own for my department. Whether it's food during the week or if I bought them an item, it's always come out of my own money, but I have a small little amount in my budget this past budget year. But we haven't gone out to dinner or anything, but usually it's a celebration of, we hit our mile mark on the annual open enrollment. I'm assuming we'll celebrate something when we do the implementation of our Kronos product, just due to the time and effort of all the staff by buying them subs or whatever, a cake, something like that, just to recognize their work. But I can't speak for the other departments, but that's the extent of what I have.
Commissioner Coyle?
Sure, I can speak to just maybe a little bit of history in terms of the budget season and what the commissioners had discussed and intended. Obviously, we're in, as everybody, like a staffing crisis in all departments to some extent. And also, you know, so there's two parts of this. Is one is obviously new hiring and the other is retention. And thankfully, I mean, we're grateful to have Autumn in the recruiting end of it, but the commissioners, as we contemplated budget the last round, what would be appropriate given the department size and an effort for retention. And so, and we allocated monies in various departments for specifically for retention. And it's like with the idea that we felt like confident in our department heads to use this monies the way they saw fit to honor their employees, whether it was pizza for everybody or team building exercises or, you know, team meals or either catered in or, you know, with respect to depending on the department, like, you know, potential COVID concerns, doing smaller meals out. And so that was our, I mean, I think the commissioners contemplated just that there were going to be these, and if I recall and I don't have the last budget right in front of me, but I mean, we're not talking huge sums. I want to say, I mean, probably long-term care had the highest budget just because they have most employees, but you know, Department of Corrections, all the departments had some amount of retention money so that we can, you know, just say thanks to our employees. And, you know, I think the feedback that I personally heard is just that it's been really well received. Like that some of the events, some of the meals, like that employees do feel appreciated and that it's been somewhat successful.
Superintendent, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, just for reference, Commissioner Godu, when I got here, there was no money in a budget for retention. So I put some money in the budget and asked the commissioners. We brought forth a delegation. The delegation was very happy, thought that was a good idea. So they were very supportive. And for here, we've done things like simple as a fried food, French fries here for all 3 shifts. Little things like that, the staff are very appreciative for. You know, we have a grill here, sometimes we give them meat and those kinds of things as a retention. And there was never money here for that. There is a law enforcement week, there is nurses weeks, all that kind of good stuff, which is also built in that we try to do things for staff because it's nationally recognized during those times of the year. So some of that money is also used during those things as well, just to give you some reference.
I just want to add that I was a little upset that I missed the Tom and Jerry day.
Ben and Jerry's.
Hopefully next
Ben
time.
and Jerry's.
Ben and Jerry's, that's right. Next time,
Tom and
hopefully
Jerry
I'll get a new warning that it's coming, so. But anyway, any other further new business? Al?
So I just want to kind of, we have as you know, we have our overall recruitment or marketing video that we did towards the spring of last year, and it was produced and done in December. I know Commissioner Godu has asked to potentially have some edits made to that so that he would be in that video. We had the budget as part of recruitment in there that we did not go out to bid, but we did source a number of different vendors that were interviewed for it. And one was selected. We kept it, it was kept under the $5,000. It came out under the $5,000. If we reopen that now, it will go over the $5,000 threshold, so it would require, my understanding, anything over $5,000 would require a bid waiver, maybe at this point, because I didn't RFP it. So I just want to know the flavor of the board on what you want me to do for that. So what your preference is on.
Is
on
that
doing
like
that.
time sensitive or can we wait till next week? Mr. Coyle, what do you want to do?
Oh, I mean, I think I have no problem in doing a bid waiver. I mean, it was unanticipated and, if, you know, Commissioner Godu wants to be a part of the video, then by all means, if you said it's only a few $100, the delta will be only a few $100.
Yeah, up to
put
like
in. 300
or so
Yeah.
over the 5. It'll be, 53, 54, somewhere in there. But I just want to be mindful of the process.
Yeah, can you bring it
We
back
can
next
bring
week
it
and with
forward
the
next
hard
week,
number?
But I would support it.
Okay,
certainly.
great.
I'm fine.
And just a little postscript, we're hoping that for legislation through this session, and Kathy knows this too, that hopefully through the Senate, we'll be able to get a bill passed that long-standing $5,000 threshold will finally be updated to $10,000.
So helpful for something like that.
So many things now with
Yeah.
inflation are poking above that $5,000, whether
Right.
it's a 3-year service contract, unlike our commercial washer dryers or whatever with the power corrections or what have you.
Right,
It's like so
right.
many things now
I know,
are pressing upon that $5,000 threshold
great.
fairly.
All right, very good. So I'm gonna move on to public comment. Is there anybody in the public? I haven't seen anybody, but I'm just gonna ask if there's any public comment. Please make yourself known. I don't see anybody, so. Do we have non-publics? No non-publics? Wow, okay, so we're finished.
Well,
So,
I make a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 We adjourn. Everybody enjoy your day.
Thank you. We have a negotiation team meeting. That's where we're at.